What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Turf Watch. I'm going through the garbage takes so you don't have to. This weekend, the Steelers are taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. It's going to be their first away game of the season, so it's going to be a true test on how this team will perform. Steelers are now 1-1 after getting a win on Monday Night Football against the Browns. It wasn't a pretty game, but it was a win, and that's all that matters for this team right now. Past 2 weekends, the Steelers have played two incredible defenses, the 49ers, then the Browns, and this weekend, they kind of get an easier opponent here. They get the Las Vegas Raiders, who have struggled to start the season. From what I can tell, their fans are just as displeased with their offense as the Steelers are with theirs. I know you all want to hear about Matt Canada. That's what everyone's been talking about. But I truly do feel good about this game this upcoming weekend. Now, I know that the Steelers haven't looked amazing at all this season, but the Raiders have not either, and they're going into this game as 2.5-point underdogs again. So that's 3 games in a row where they've been underdogs. This one, I don't know if I quite understand. You're going against a Raiders team who is only scoring 13.5 points per game, which is 30th in the league, while the Steelers are averaging 16.5, which is 26th in the league. And I know the defense has put up a lot of points for this team, but the Raiders, they haven't been getting it done on either side of the ball. The Raiders' defense suits well for the Steelers' offense this weekend. They are one of those teams who've let teams get into the red zone easily this season. On 2/3 of their drives this year, they've allowed a team to get into red zone or score a touchdown. Now, the Steelers last week, first team since 2019 to win a game without entering the red zone. Wasn't pretty. If they can't get it done this weekend, you're going to be hearing Fire Matt Canada chants at the next home game. I can promise you that. More things going off this Raiders defense. They've allowed over 50 yards a drive, while the Steelers are under 20 yards a drive this year. Here's my bold prediction for this weekend. I think Kenny Pickett and this offense gets back on track. Kenny has looked worse than he's looked at any time last season, his rookie year. It seems like he's reverted back to those early season days where he was throwing interceptions, just mistakes. Accuracy wasn't quite there. Towards the end of the season, he was winning, and we all remember this game last year, Christmas Eve. Kenny gets it done, and he wins against the Raiders on the anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. In my opinion, last year, this was the game where Kenny showed me that he was a winner, and he was the franchise quarterback of this team. I think you're going to see it again this weekend. 2 incredibly tough defenses to start the year. You can't emphasize that more. And now you're going against a team that if you can't move the ball, we can finally be concerned, and we can finally start getting those hot takes out and maybe giving them some respect. Another thing that's been bothering Steelers fans this year is the run defense. It hasn't been pretty at all. They've been allowing over 5 yards a carry. However, you're going against this Raiders team where 30% of their rushing plays have failed to gain a yard. This is just proving to be a bounce-back game all around. I think they're going to get back on track, and you're going to feel confident moving forward in this season. We have a Steelers draft analyst here who is giving these facts here. Steelers rushing, their success rate 25%, which is 31st in the NFL, going against the Raiders, which they've only had success on 21% of their rushes, which is last place. This guy says it's going to be a battle for 32nd. It could be. We're just hoping Najee can get back on track this year. I don't think he's been as bad as people are making him out to be. He's averaging 4 yards a carry against these defenses. I wouldn't worry about it too much right now. The Raiders defense, they've allowed opponents to complete a league-high 81% of their passes and throw an AFC-high 5 touchdowns. Again, this is just proving what I'm saying. Kenny Pickett getting back on track. We got to have some optimism here, folks. We just have to. This guy brings up a good point here. He says teams like the Bengals, Chargers, Broncos, and Patriots are 0-2. Teams like the Jets and the Browns have lost key players. He's not wrong. He's a Raiders fan, but this proves well for both sides. This is a must-win game for both teams. These are 2 hungry teams. Before we get into the ugly stuff, let's just talk about the good things, and that's the defense. They scored 2 touchdowns last weekend. TJ Watt's on pace for 34 sacks. He's looking like a Defense Player of the Year candidate. Again, he's been on the field a ton, so these stats are a little bit boosted, but the way he's been playing, unstoppable and possibly the best in the league. Last week on Turf Watch, my analysis for the Browns game was all about the trends. What happens when these teams go up against each other on Monday night in Pittsburgh? And 9 times out of 10, more like 10 times out of 10, the Steelers beat the Browns. And I was right. It happened again. The Steelers beat the Browns on Monday Night Football at home. It always happens. Now, going into this game, let's talk about some more trends, and that is going against the Raiders on the road. Mike Tomlin has never won a road game against the Raiders. He is 0-3 entering Sunday night. So that's something just to remember going into this one. These are games that the Steelers historically have not won with Mike Tomlin. Will that mean anything? I don't think so. I think it's such a small sample size compared to Steelers versus Browns in those type of games. So I definitely don't fully agree with this trend, but it is something to remember. Here's an interesting take that I found this weekend. I saw some people saying that the Steelers should have hired Eric Bieniemy this season, the Chiefs' former offensive coordinator. He was looking for a new job. He was ready to get out of there and start fresh, and now he's with the Commanders as their offensive coordinator. But man, how nice would it be if the Steelers did get him? And then he also adds to this, the defense coordinator could have been Brian Flores. We did have him in the building. That one seemed a lot more attainable. I don't think Terry Austin has been awful compared to Matt Canada, but you see what Brian Flores has done to change that Vikings defense, and they're significantly better than they were last season. And you can't say anything more about Eric Bieniemy and the talent that he has in scheming up offensive plays in the league. All right, here's a very interesting one that Steelers Depot posted. You look at this formation, let's say it's the Steelers playing, what's going to happen? If it's Matt Canada's offense, it's 100% going to be a run. And, oh, nope, it's a screen out of 22 personnel. As you know, the Steelers have built up their offensive line. They were supposed to be a lot more physical going into this year to possibly get plays like this that we see teams run to succession every week. Regarding Matt Canada, I highly suggest that you all watch this video from Warren Sharp. He fully analyzed Matt Canada and this offense and how bad it has been. This is a 6-minute video. Warren Sharp just dives deep into the numbers here, and he shows it's not necessarily Kenny Pickett. It's not necessarily the offensive line. It truly is Matt Canada and the schemes that he's drawing up. There have been some other things coming out from Matt Canada this week. As bad as Canada's plays have been, as much as the numbers show that he's not some out-of-the-box coordinator, Kenny Pickett hasn't been great. Here's a stat from Daniel Valente. Great follow on Twitter. Highly recommend. He says only 74.6% of Kenny Pickett's passes this season have been catchable. That's the lowest mark among all quarterbacks with at least 50 attempts, and a near 10% drop from his 2022 rate. So this proves what I said earlier. Kenny Pickett's looked a lot worse than he looked last year. But Kenny's not looked good either. It looks like there's something possibly physically wrong with him at the moment. I did see a play where he hit his head pretty hard. I don't know. Here it is. This is from Andrew Filipponi. He says Matt Canada's offense rankings in college football by points scored through the years in Indiana 38th, 97th, 84th, 56th, Wisconsin 60th, NC State 98th, 57th, 41st, and at Pitt that year with Kenny Pickett they were 10th, LSU 76th, Maryland 69th. He says that Canada wasn't a good offensive coordinator. I don't know if I can personally say that because of the success that he did have at Pitt. You did have a Heisman contender on that team, but when you put it like this, it looks a lot worse for Canada and why he was hired. This guy says he had one decent season at Pitt. Name a good proven offense coordinator that would work for Tomlin. Todd Haley. I don't know about that. Matt Canada's entire playbook has just been released. I don't understand the obsession with the end around and the jet sweeps. I don't think it's that prevalent in the offense for it to be anywhere near the top of the list of things to be complaining about. This is one of those plays where I think it's really getting drawn out of proportion by these fans. So there's been some success when they've ran it. There's been some bad stuff. There's been some interesting strategy on when to use this play, but I don't think it has been as unsuccessful as just some of the basic runs up the middle when everyone in the stadium knows it's going to be a run. NFL Insider, he believes that the Steelers are purposely attempting to lower Pickens' play time so they can give him a lower contract. I'm interested to see what you guys think about this. Do you think it's purposeful that they aren't targeting Pickens, or do you think it's simply the plays that are being called, or just that he's not getting open? I don't know. Here's one that I'm sure will make fans mad. CBS Sports released a power ranking of all 32 starting NFL quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett came in at 32nd behind Bryce Young, Zach Wilson, Jimmy G, Josh Dobbs, Gardner Minshew at 26. Let me know what you guys think about this one. I don't understand how Justin Fields is 23. The one that I think is the worst here is Bryce Young at 30. Bryce Young has been Very poor. Very poor. Here's the hot take of the week from Mark Madden, in my opinion. He says that the main issue of the Steelers offense right now is Kenny Pickett. It's not Matt Canada. He says if he was making the throws, we would stop talking about him. He's the preferred scapegoat, but he isn't the main one. I don't think I agree with this take here. If Pickett was making the throws that he should be, if he was more accurate, I think the results from these games would be the exact same. I think the Browns game would be super tight the whole way, and they'd sneak away with a win. And I think the 49ers game, they would lose no matter what type of throws he's making. I don't care if Joe Montana was out there playing against 49ers in week 1. The Steelers wouldn't have won with that play calling. 49ers were too fast. They were too good. It was never going to happen. So Steelers' defensive line has been pretty great this season, but the Raiders' offensive line has been pretty darn good as well. They've allowed 0 sacks through the first 2 weeks of the season. They're the only team to have not allowed a sack. This could be interesting for TJ Watt and Highsmith. Like I said, this is going to be a real test for the Steelers. If this isn't a bounce back, you can start being concerned. You can start not writing them off, but you can start being honest and saying when they're going to lose games. If they can't get it done against this team who's been struggling, I don't know. The number one concern is going to be Davante Adams, one of the most talented receivers of all time. He had a touchdown last week, bounced back, extreme red zone threat for this Steelers team, and I don't know who's going to guard him. That's a big concern for me this week. Who's going to guard Davante Adams? I guess we're going to have to wait and see for that one. Here's from a Raiders subreddit. They said, can't wait for the Steelers get it right game next week. This guy says their offense isn't good, so I expect them to obviously have a career day. Raiders will make sure Pickett has a record-setting game. These guys, they're thinking Pickett's going to go for 400, Najee for 150. If this happens, I'd be shocked. I hope they get it right. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm predicting. Raiders fans feel the same way. They know that their defense isn't good enough. They know that the Steelers have talent. They know that they can move the ball if they're allowed to. So we're going to see on Sunday. Someone posted, why aren't we doing anything with Darnell Washington? Someone replied, we never possess the ball long enough to allow us to do much with anyone. And someone else said, it's hard to get people involved when you only run 3 plays a drive. Same reason we're not using anyone else to the best of their ability. We're dealing with levels of offensive ineptitude rarely seen. Oh boy. You would think, like going through Steelers Twitter, going through Steelers Reddit, you would think that the Steelers lost their last 2 games by 50 points. We're 1-1. The AFC is struggling. The guys that we thought were going to be better than us are 0-2. The parity in the NFL is unmatched. They can beat anyone any given Sunday, and they're going to get the win on Sunday against the Raiders too. It's primetime football, Steelers versus Raiders. I think it's time that we wrap this thing up and just say the Steelers are going to get the win on Sunday. People know it. The Raiders fans know it. Steelers fans, deep down in their heart, they know that they're the better team. They know that they're going to get it done. So, with that being said, we're going to wrap up episode number 3 of Turf Watch. We're making sure that the Steelers are getting their respect. So I appreciate you all for tuning in this weekend. Make sure you follow me and send me those awful takes on Twitter at Dom Farrow, and we'll make sure to feature it on this show. I feel great about this upcoming weekend. I think Steelers get it done and handle the Raiders pretty convincingly. So with that being said, we'll wrap it up here, and I hope you all have a great weekend.